I Think You Offended Dawn is the 13th episode of the 6th season of Two and a Half Men. This is directed by Jeff Melman, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. It's a decent enough episode. It starts off with Charlie coming home drunk with Don, the cab driver, who, first of all, seems to be Charlie's friend, but Don very quickly confirms that he is the cab driver and he does want to be paid. Alan then gives him the money and Charlie comes in and Alan has some papers laid out on the table and Charlie wants to know what the initials JMC stand for. And we get a teeny tiny bit of suspense for maybe 30 seconds and then we find out it stands for Judith's menstrual cycle. Alan is... I'd actually kind of temporarily forgotten about this. Judith is pregnant and Alan still thinks that it could be his child. And he goes to visit them and Judith is obviously, as always, not interested in interacting with Alan. And we find out that actually it is a girl and Alan always wanted a daughter. And I have to say, in that moment, my heart did kind of break for Alan because whatever happens, whether or not it's his daughter, he would, obviously the child would live with Judith and Herb, and it was just a bit of a sad moment. Not that it would be, I guess, any less sad if it was a son and turned out to be his son, but because he just said he wanted a daughter, it was a little bit of a gut punch for Alan, I think. Alan reads Jake a poem he wrote when Jake was born. It was very sweet. I thought it was really adorable. And Jake didn't care at all. Alan then goes back where he spends most of the episode at Judith and Herb's, helping Herb against Judith's wishes to paint the nursery. And Charlie and Jake get into a bit of an argument because they're sitting on the sofa. Charlie wants to watch something on television and he's not very respectful of Jake's wishes or opinions, and he goes into Jake's bedroom and apologizes. Much to Charlie's credit, he realizes he was maybe over the top with the things he was saying. He apologizes to Jake, offers to order them some pizza, and Jake said, "I'm not hungry." And there you know something is bothering Jake if he's turning down food. And he doesn't give it away immediately, but Charlie seems to think it's something to do with a girl, and we'll come back to that in a little bit. We're then in the baby's room discussing names, and yeah, it's a decent scene. I like the wall colour. I really, really like the wall colour for the baby's room. It just occurred to me that I have absolutely no idea what the colour of the walls were when I was growing up. I don't even know if I had my own room or if I was in my parents' bedroom when I was very young. I have absolutely no idea. Is that common? Let me know if you know the colour of the walls that you had when you were growing up. Films and TV shows generally have the baby in their own room, their own nursery, and they're having everything decorated very childlike and adorable. I feel like that's not completely everybody's reality, but that's certainly the case for this baby, and I do love the wall colour. We're then back at the house. We find out that Jake doesn't want to go to a party because a girl is going to be there that he likes, and it turns out she's interested in him too, but she's more experienced than he is romantically. And Charlie managed to get this information out of Jake because Jake said it was embarrassing, so Charlie told an embarrassing story first about the time he kissed a guy in Bangkok because he thought the guy was a woman and didn't see the Adam's apple. And that's a pretty good tactic to get somebody to tell you something where it's clear Jake is worrying about this. It's not just getting a secret out of him because Charlie's being nosy. I genuinely think Charlie wanted to help. And this is an area where Charlie can help. Yes, some of his advice might not be very moral, but on this occasion I think he did an okay job because he told Jake to tell the girl, and I quote, "I'm new at this and I'm trusting you to be patient with me. If the girl is worth it, she will accept that. If she laughs in Jake's face, she's not worth it at all." So I think that was actually quite nice advice for Charlie to give Jake. Having said that, I can't imagine too many teenagers would be willing to tell somebody they're new at this because I don't know if that would be embarrassing. Certainly that shouldn't be the case. Nobody should have any shame in saying, "I haven't slept around. I don't know what I'm doing." It's certainly at 14, at Jake's very young age. So I think it's a very sweet thing to say, a very honest thing. But again, well, maybe it's a good thing because if she laughs in his face, as I said, then she's not worth it. And if she's understanding and kind, maybe she's somebody to potentially, hopefully have a relationship with. But Jake Doesn't want to go. He's about to leave. He's dressed. He's ready. He's about to go out the door, and he freezes, and he doesn't want to go. And we see this real vulnerability in him. And I really appreciate the fact that Charlie didn't push it and didn't force him to go and just said, "Fine, we'll order that pizza then." And it was a really, really sweet moment. And I've mentioned this before, but I'll say it again. I do feel like Charlie over this season, the previous season, has really matured and grown up and has started to give people genuinely good advice. And in a lot of episodes, he's actually acting in a way that's more moral and reasonable, unlike Charlie of the earlier seasons. And it's definitely a fascinating character development, and it was a really lovely moment between Charlie and Jake. Alan is then still at Herb and Judith's house, and he offered to babysit, said some rather wild things, and Judith ends up throwing him out, which was quite funny, very effective. And then the last scene is 14 years later. Judith knocks on the door, and Alan answers the door, and it's unbelievable just because of what I'm about to say, but basically Judith said, "I have to now tell you that actually Marlene is your daughter and she wants to live with you." That part I don't believe, because I'm assuming she never had much of a relationship with Alan, because why would she if she didn't think or know he was her father? But nevertheless, apparently Marlene wants to live with him, and she appears in the doorway, played, of course, by Angus T. Jones. And yeah, it was quite funny. It was interesting. They absolutely could have just said, "She wants to spend time with you," but the whole wanting to live with you thing, I think, kind of ruined it ever so slightly because it made it less believable, but it's not a big deal. And then Alan wakes up to point that out. It was a dream, or maybe a nightmare for Alan, because it was a bizarre situation. But I rather enjoyed the episode as a whole. I don't know if I have any personal highlights. I guess I really liked the scene with the cab driver. I really liked Don. I thought he was a great character. Don, I don't think I mentioned, Don is played by Iqbal Theba, and I liked the interaction between Charlie and Jake. I thought that was very well done. So, all things considered, I think You Offended Don is a pretty decent episode of Two and a Half Men, and certainly one that I rather enjoyed.